Hey everyone, Movie Subway here. Today we're diving into an inspiring true story based on real events. A tale of courage, friendship, and never giving up. This is Dolphin Tale, and trust me, you'll want to stick around till the end. The story begins with an 11-year-old boy named Sawyer, a quiet kid with no real friends, except for his cousin Kyle, who was more like a brother to him. But now, Kyle was about to join the army. To celebrate, he threw a small farewell party, but Sawyer didn't go. Instead, he stayed in his garage, fixing his toy helicopter. Kyle walks in and says, "Hey, I'm not disappearing like your dad did, okay? I'll be back soon. I'm just joining the army for a while." Sawyer looks up and says, "But you're such a great swimmer. I thought you'd try out for the Olympics." Kyle smiles and replies, "I wish I could, buddy, but the training's expensive. Once I earn enough money, I'll chase that dream." He then hands Sawyer a small gift, a multi-tool. Sawyer's eyes light up. The next morning, when Sawyer wakes up, Kyle is already gone. Feeling lonely, he grabs his bike and heads out for summer school. Meanwhile, down by the shore, a fisherman is pulling up his crab traps when he spots something tangled near the waterline, a young dolphin, trapped and badly injured. Just then, the fisherman sees Sawyer biking by and calls out, "Hey kid, you got a phone?" Sawyer hands him his phone and the man quickly calls for the rescue team. As they wait, Sawyer kneels beside the dolphin. She's scared and struggling, so he gently strokes her back, trying to calm her down. Then, using the multi-tool Kyle gave him, he carefully cuts the ropes of the crab trap. The dolphin watches him closely, almost as if she understands he's helping. After a few moments, she lets out a soft, high-pitched whistle like a thank you. Soon, the Clearwater Marine Hospital rescue team arrives, led by a young girl named Hazel, the daughter of Dr. Clay. Hazel helps clear away the sand, and together the team lifts the dolphin carefully onto a stretcher. Before leaving, she turns to Sawyer and says, "Thanks. If it weren't for you, we might have been too late." But he's already late for school. His teacher scolds him. "You never focus, Sawyer. You need to take things seriously." After class, Sawyer can't stop thinking about that dolphin. He jumps on his bike and rides all the way to the marine hospital. But when he arrives, the main gate is locked, so he sneaks in through the back. Inside, he finds a giant aquarium full of sea animals. He looks around, amazed, until a white pelican suddenly flies straight at him. Startled, Sawyer stumbles backward and bumps into a box, spilling a bunch of fish onto the floor. The pelican immediately starts gobbling them up. "Don't worry, that's Rufus. He basically lives on our roof." Sawyer turns to leave, but Hazel stops him. "I know you came here to see the dolphin," she says. "I'll take you to her, but promise me one thing. Don't tell my dad. He doesn't let anyone near the sick animals." Sawyer nods. He glances at the bucket in her hands and asks, "Is that food for her?" Hazel shakes her head sadly. "No, she can't eat yet. She's really hurt. I named her Winter because before her, we had two dolphins named Summer and Autumn. We released them once they got better. I thought naming her after the seasons might bring her luck." Hazel leads him toward the pool area where two other dolphins, Cresta and Panama, swim playfully. She smiles and says, "You know, dolphins are way smarter than people think." Sawyer waves and says softly, "Hi there." The dolphins splash in response, and for the first time in a long while, Sawyer smiles. Hazel then takes him up to the rooftop and whispers, "Ever since we brought Winter here, she hasn't moved. She hasn't even opened her eyes." As Sawyer quietly watched Winter from the rooftop, he accidentally knocked over some equipment, and that's when a woman named Phoebe, one of the dolphin specialists, spotted him. She frowned and said, "Hazel, who is this kid? You know your dad doesn't like outsiders wandering around here." Hazel quickly replied, "I know, but he's the one who found Winter and helped free her from that crab trap. He just wanted to check if she's okay." Phoebe sighed and said, "Winter's in critical condition. There's almost no blood circulation left in her tail." Just then, Sawyer spoke softly, and at the sound of his voice, Winter suddenly opened her eyes. She made a faint chirping sound, almost like a bird, as if she recognized him. At that moment, Dr. Clay walked in. Hazel panicked and immediately pulled Sawyer outside. That night, back home, Sawyer couldn't stop thinking about Winter. He started researching dolphins, their injuries, recovery, and how they survive. He was worried about her, really worried. The next afternoon after school, he went back to Clearwater Marine Hospital. He slipped in through the back again and climbed up to the roof, watching from above. Down below, Dr. Clay was talking to his team. "Winter's infection is spreading," he said grimly. "The tissue in her tail is dying. She's losing the will to live." Behind him, that mischievous pelican Rufus started bothering Sawyer again. Sawyer tried to shoo him away, but in the process, he made a noise that caught Clay's attention. Clay turned around. "Who are you?" he asked. Before Sawyer could answer, Hazel quickly said, "Dad, this is the boy who saved Winter's life." Clay sighed deeply. "Hazel, you know no visitors are allowed in this section," he said firmly. But Phoebe interrupted. "Dr. Clay, Winter woke up and she made that same chirping sound right when this boy was here." Hazel smiled and added, "She only does it for Sawyer." Clay paused for a moment, thinking, then he said softly, "Maybe his presence gives her a reason to fight." He motioned for Sawyer to come closer. Sawyer gently reached into the water and touched Winter, and instantly, she started splashing with excitement. Hazel grinned. "See, Dad? She really likes him." Clay smiled for the first time and said, "All right, from now on Sawyer can visit whenever he wants." From that that day on, Sawyer woke up early every morning and went straight to the marine hospital. He stopped caring about school. All he wanted was to help Winter heal. One morning when he arrived, he saw tears in Hazel's eyes. He rushed over and asked, "Hazel, what happened?" She whispered, "Winter's condition got worse. The infection spread too far. We had to remove her tail." Sawyer froze. "What? But how will she swim without a tail?" Dr. Clay sighed. "We didn't have a choice, but we're going to do everything we can to help her recover." To cheer him up, Hazel took Sawyer to her grandpa's boat. They sat under the sun, sipping lemonade and feeling the ocean breeze. Hazel asked quietly, "What about your dad? What does he do?" Hazel's voice softened. "My mom passed away when I was 7, she said. "I guess we both lost someone." The next day, when Sawyer returned, Dr. Clay was trying to feed Winter her recovery formula, but she wouldn't take a single sip. Sawyer stepped closer and gently touched the water near where her tail used to be. Winter immediately perked up, clicking and whistling with excitement. Clay watched in amazement. She's responding, she's finally fighting again. And from that day, Sawyer and Hazel took care of her together. Bit by bit, the light returned to Winter's eyes, as if she was saying, "I'm not giving up." Meanwhile, Dr. Clay attended a board meeting. Inside, Gloria and the other members were already waiting. Gloria said, "We're drowning in debt. We've lost our biggest grants over the past 2 months. We have no money left." She took a deep breath and added, "There's only one option. We need to sell the facility." Dr. Clay frowned as she continued, "We've received an offer from Philip Horden, a world-class real estate developer. He wants to buy this place for a luxury project. We can move the animals to another facility and clear all our debts." Clay looked devastated. He didn't say a word. They try to feed her the recovery formula, but she turns her head away. That's when Sawyer steps forward, smiling gently. "Hey, Winter," he says softly. "I know you're not feeling good right now, but if you don't eat, how will you get better?" He picks up the cup and pretends to drink it himself. "See? It's actually pretty tasty." Hazel laughs, and to everyone's surprise, Winter finally starts drinking. That evening, when Sawyer comes home, his mom, Lorraine, is furious. "You haven't gone to school for an entire week," she yells, "and you smell like dead fish." She sends him straight to the bathroom. But Sawyer quietly says, "Mom, I'm not going to school tomorrow. Winter needs me." Lorraine doesn't respond. She just looks at her son for a long moment, realizing, maybe for the first time, that something inside him has changed. The next morning, Sawyer takes his mom to the marine hospital. He proudly shows her around, every tank, every fish, every animal. Lorraine watches in awe, seeing how alive her son looks here. She realizes that this place, not school, is where he truly belongs. Sawyer says, "Mom, I don't want to go to summer school this year. I'll make up for it next year. But right now, Winter needs me." Lorraine smiles softly. "All right, honey, if this is what makes you happy, then go." The following day, she even surprises him with a new pair of swim trunks. Sawyer beams with joy, and together with Hazel, he spends his days taking care of Winter. But one afternoon, Winter starts to act restless. She slips from their hands and splashes hard in the pool. Sawyer and Hazel panic until they notice something incredible. Winter is swimming, all on her own. Without a tail, she was moving her body side to side, pushing through the water with all her strength. Everyone watches in amazement as she glides forward, refusing to give up. From that moment, Sawyer, Hazel, and Winter become inseparable. They play together, laugh together. They're true friends now. Days pass, and Sawyer starts helping out everywhere, cleaning tanks, feeding animals, assisting Phoebe. He's part of the family now. But one evening, when he comes home, he finds his mom and aunt sitting silently, their eyes filled with tears. He immediately knows something's wrong. "Is it Kyle?" he asks, his voice trembling. Lorraine nods softly. "There was an explosion during a mission. Kyle's been injured." Sawyer's heart sinks. His aunt adds, "He was supposed to come home today, but he didn't." Later, they learn that Kyle suffered a spinal injury and he may never walk again. Sawyer's eyes fill with tears. "He went straight to the VA hospital," Lorraine says quietly. Sawyer whispers, "We're his family, and he didn't even come see us. I wanted to show him something." Dr. Clay, who overhears this, can see how broken the boy feels inside. He gently asks Sawyer to stay at the hospital that night. As they sit together under the dim lights, Sawyer asks softly, "Do dolphins remember things? Like their family? Their ocean?" Clay smiles faintly. "It's hard to say," he replies, "but dolphins are incredibly smart. Some people even believe they're more intelligent than we are." Hazel grins and says, "Dad, tell us a story." Clay chuckles and nods. "All right, here's one." He begins. "Long ago, the Chumash tribe lived on a small island. Their goddess Hutash wanted them to move to the mainland for a better life, so she built a rainbow bridge, a path through the sky to help them cross safely. But some of the children started playing and slipped off the rainbow, falling into the ocean below. Hutash didn't want them to drown, so she saved them, and because she loved watching them play so much, she turned them into dolphins, so they could always live free, always swim, and always play in the sea forever." Hazel smiles dreamily. "Guess that means Winter's one of them." Clay nods. "Maybe she is." Clay gives Sawyer a small gift, a tiny dolphin-shaped pendant. Sawyer smiles, his eyes lighting up with gratitude. Down by the pool, Winter splashes water at him playfully, as if saying, "Come on, let's play." Sawyer laughs, bringing over a floating toy, but Winter flicks her fin and knocks it right out of his hand. Both of them laugh, and in that moment, a special bond forms between them. They play, swim, and move together, as if their lives are now connected by something deeper than words. The next day, Sawyer is showing Hazel how to fly his model helicopter, but she loses control and it crashes to the ground, breaking apart. Before they can react, Phoebe rushes in, her face tense. "Something's wrong with Winter," she says urgently. They all hurry inside. Dr. Clay shows them the x-rays, his expression serious. "Winter's been trying to swim without her tail," he explains, "and her muscles have started developing the wrong way. The pressure is building up around her spine. Dolphins are built to move their tails up and down, not side to side. If she keeps swimming like this, she won't survive much longer." Sawyer's eyes fill with tears. "But that's the only way she can swim now," he whispers. "How could it get any worse?" Clay sighs. Winter's spine controls her movement, her breathing, her heartbeat, everything. If the strain continues, she might not make it. Sawyer feels crushed. Later, he and his mom visit the Veteran Affairs Hospital, where Dr. McCarthy is working with his cousin Kyle, fitting him for a new back brace. Kyle is quiet, distant, almost unrecognizable. McCarthy gives them some privacy. Kyle finally says, "The injury damaged my spine. I can't walk anymore. My left leg still responds a bit, but my right one's completely gone. Will you ever walk again?" Kyle looks down, "Maybe with braces, but I'll never swim again." His voice cracks, his dream shattered. As Sawyer leaves, he notices Dr. McCarthy working nearby, and suddenly an idea hits him. If McCarthy can make prosthetics for people, maybe he can make one for Winter. He runs over and explains everything. At first, McCarthy is stunned, but the determination in Sawyer's eyes makes him smile. "Well," he says, "let's go meet your dolphin." Soon after, McCarthy arrives at Clearwater Marine Hospital. He studies Winter closely and says, "This dolphin's skin is incredibly delicate, almost like wet silk. Even if we build her a prosthetic tail, where would we attach it? No one's ever made an artificial tail for a dolphin before. Honestly, no sane person would even try." He pauses, then grins. "But luckily, I'm not always sane, so let's give it a shot." Everyone bursts out laughing. Even Winter seems to join in, splashing water right at him. From that day on, McCarthy and his team start researching everything about dolphins, their movement, muscle structure, and balance. They work for weeks, testing materials, running measurements, and building prototypes. Finally, after endless trials, they create a model that might actually work. For the first time, hope returns. But there's still one big problem: money. Clay is already drowning in debt. That's when McCarthy reaches out to his old contacts at Hanger Prosthetics and Orthotics, convincing them to donate the custom materials for free. Now everyone has the same dream: to see Winter swim again. That night, McCarthy heads home and finds Kyle sitting alone, frustrated. "My records are gone," Kyle says bitterly. "Donovan took my spot. I'll never make it to the Olympics now." McCarthy sits beside him and says gently, "Kyle, you've dreamed about the Olympics your whole life, but maybe it's time to dream a new dream. There are a million things worth living for. You just have to open your eyes and see them." Kyle clenches his jaw. "I'm useless now, broken." McCarthy looks at a glass sitting nearby and suddenly knocks it to the floor, shattering it. "That," he says calmly, "is what broken looks like. You're not broken, Kyle. You're just hurt. And now it's time to go home." Kyle looks up, and for the first time in weeks, there's a spark of understanding in his eyes. The next day, Dr. McCarthy revealed a temporary prototype, an early version of the prosthetic tail he planned to build for Winter. He explained, "Until the real one arrives, we'll have to use this model for now." Everyone watched nervously as he gently attached the tail to Winter's stump, but Winter didn't like it. Frightened, she thrashed against the pool wall, breaking it apart. And so did everyone's hope. McCarthy looked defeated. Even Sawyer stood frozen, heartbroken. Soon after, dark clouds gathered outside. Dr. Clay was watching the news when he saw the emergency weather alert. A massive hurricane was heading straight toward Clearwater. Immediately, the entire team began securing the facility. Sawyer worked hard alongside them, but Lorraine, his mom, insisted on taking him home before the storm got worse. That night, the hurricane struck. The wind roared, and everything shook violently. Kyle had finally returned home, but even together, they could only watch helplessly as the storm raged outside. The next morning, the skies cleared, but Clearwater Marine Hospital was in ruins. The rescue van was smashed, tanks were damaged, and half the equipment was destroyed. Dr. Clay's heart sank. The aquarium was already drowning in debt, and now this. Everyone rolled up their sleeves and started cleaning. Kyle joined in too, limping slightly but smiling. When Sawyer saw him, he ran straight into his arms. Kyle laughed and said, "Thought you might need me, little man." Then he took Kyle to meet Winter. The moment Kyle looked at her, something stirred inside him, a silent connection between two souls who'd both lost something but hadn't stopped fighting. Later that week, a board meeting was called. Dr. Clay sat quietly as Gloria broke the news. "The storm caused over $500,000 in damage," she said grimly. "We don't have the funds to recover. The only option is to sell the aquarium," she continued. "We'll relocate the animals to other facilities and pay off the loans." Clay clenched his fists. "And what about Winter?" Gloria hesitated, then said coldly, "No facility will take in a disabled dolphin. The humane thing would be euthanasia." The word hit like thunder. Clay, Hazel, and Sawyer were speechless. Sawyer whispered, "There has to be another way." But Clay could only say, "We don't have the money, son." As Sawyer walked outside, his heart heavy, a car pulled up in front of the hospital. A woman stepped out, holding the hand of her disabled daughter. They'd come all the way from Atlanta to see Winter, the dolphin who refused to give up. The little girl smiled and said softly, "She's just like me." Her words echoed in Sawyer's mind, and then an idea struck struck him. He rushed to Dr. Clay and said excitedly, "What if we host a Save Winter Day? We could organize a big carnival, build a website, and live stream Winter 24/7 so people everywhere can see her story. We could raise donations and save the aquarium and her." Clay sighed. "Nice idea, Sawyer, but that's not how the world works." Sawyer's shoulders dropped. But Clay's father, who overheard, stepped forward. He said gently, "Maybe she won't make it, son, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try." Clay fell silent. The truth hit him deep. That evening, he showed up at Sawyer's house and said, "All right, kid, let's make it happen." Sawyer's eyes lit up with joy. The next morning, everyone sprang into action. Hazel, Sawyer, and the entire staff worked day and night to prepare for Save Winter Day. They built a new website, set up cameras around Winter's pool, and soon, people from all over the world began tuning in. Local news reporter Sandra picked up the story, and within days it went viral. "Winter the dolphin, the one who lost her tail but not her spirit," the headlines read. Donations started pouring in. Even Philip Horton, the real estate developer, heard about it. A few days later, McCarthy returned, holding a new prosthetic tail. "This one's better," he said with a smile. "Stronger, gentler." Everyone held their breath as he carefully attached it to Winter. But again, she panicked and slammed into the wall, breaking it off. The room went silent. All hope seemed lost. A little later, Sawyer sat quietly beside Winter's pool, talking to her in his gentle voice. As he carefully looked at her tail, he noticed how soft and sensitive her skin was, and realized that the prosthetic tail's sock was rubbing harshly against her body. He immediately went to Dr. Clay and said, "Instead of making the tail tighter or adding more straps, we need to make the sock smoother, something soft enough to match her skin." The next morning, Dr. McCarthy returned, holding something brand new in his hands. Smiling, he said, "I've tested a bunch of different formulas, and finally I've created this, a soft, jelly-like material. I call it Winter's Gel." He gently applied the gel coating to Winter's skin, then attached the new prosthetic tail over it. Everyone held their breath. This time, Winter didn't fight. She moved slowly at first, and then with growing confidence began to swim freely. Her movements became smoother, faster, stronger. For the first time in months, Winter was swimming just like she used to, free, happy, and alive. The entire aquarium erupted with cheers and applause. People cried tears of joy. Soon Save Winter Day finally arrived, the biggest event Clearwater had ever seen. Thousands of visitors filled the aquarium, all there to celebrate the dolphin who never gave up. Then came a very special moment, a swimming race between Kyle and Donovan, the state champion. The crowd went silent as Sawyer stepped on stage. He said softly, "Winter isn't just a dolphin, she's part of our family, and family always sticks together." The crowd burst into applause. Raujis began. But halfway through, Kyle stopped. He looked toward Winter's pool, because now the real race belonged to her. They released Winter into the water, and with her new tail, she swam faster than ever before, gliding past Donovan's lane like a flash of silver. The aquarium roared with excitement. Children jumped into the water, families clapped, and laughter echoed everywhere. Winter had become a living symbol of courage, hope, and friendship. Even Philip Horton, the developer who once planned to buy the place, was there, standing quietly with his grandkids. He walked over to Dr. Clay and said, "You're doing something incredible here. I was going to turn this place into a resort, but not anymore. You keep running it your way, and I'll cover the costs." Clay's eyes filled with tears. He smiled. "Thank you, sir." That evening, Winter swam freely in her pool, strong and full of life. Sawyer leaned over and whispered, "You did it, Winter. You made us all believe again." And that's how one brave dolphin taught the world to never give up. If Winter's story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next recap.